Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all of the books that I read in February. So every month I do a Bookopoly video and I land on 3 different spaces to kind of pick out 3 different books that I'm going to read that month. And the first space that I landed on was Magical Realism. And for that, I chose The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwabb. I was so ready to read this book. I was so excited because I had heard so many great things about this particular book. And I honestly didn't see a single negative review about it. And it was all over like TikTok and BookTube and everything. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna pick it up. It sounds interesting. And it does sound promising. It's about a young woman who finds herself pretty much being forced to be married and she doesn't want to be. She wants freedom. So she goes and prays to the gods that answer after dark, essentially. And she kind of sells her soul a little bit. She's able to kind of find a loophole, not really. She'll give up her life whenever she's ready, or she'll give her soul when she's like done with her freedom. And that's all good and stuff, but she gets that, but then every time she talks to a person, any person, they don't remember her. They don't remember anything about her. They don't even know she exists. And after she has an interaction, if they get out of her sight, they forget immediately. So it is very difficult for her to make her way through life. But she has been living for 300 years and she's in New York City when she stops in this bookstore and meets this boy named Henry, and he remembers who she is. It's kind of a weird situation. Someone finally remembers her, things start to change, and it seems like such a great story, but I found the characters to be so bad. Like, I liked Addie, the main character. I actually really enjoyed listening to her. The first part of the book is kind of slower because you're just getting used to her life and like what happens as she makes a deal. And it kind of flip-flops between present day, which is 2014, and 1700s, which is when she made the deal. Once we got introduced to Henry and like his friends and stuff, I found the characters to be so boring. Like, I didn't want to read when I got to his part because you do get like his perspective a little bit. I was just so bored. So I was disappointed in this read, but it sounded so promising. And for how long it was, it wasn't worth it to me. The next book that the next category that I have landed on was sci-fi or dystopian. I don't remember, one of the two, but I was going to read Ready Player 2 for sci-fi, and I DNF'd that after the first chapter. It was absolutely terrible. I was not about to read that. And I looked up a review online because I was like, is this going to get better? And they were like, no, this sucks. And I was like, awesome. I'm not going to waste my time. So there's that. For the dystopian novel, however, I chose The Maze Runner. And I actually really enjoyed this book. It was very confusing at first, which, I mean, it was kind of confusing the whole time, but that was kind of the whole purpose of it because the main character was also confused. But it was really good. I actually really liked a lot of the characters in that one. My only issue is that there's only one female character, and for most of the book she is like unconscious or like in a coma sort of. And so I do like books with like a lot of kick-ass girl characters, and so I was a little disappointed in that. However, I did really enjoy it. The sci-fi-ness of it was very technological, very like, not nomad-y, but it's very survival-based, and I kind of enjoyed it. It's very similar to The Hunger Games. I'm sure a lot of people have read this series because it's been around for a long time. The ending was super interesting, actually. There's like an epilogue, and you're like, wait, what? So then it definitely makes you kind of have that cliffhanger and want you to just immediately hop into the second book, which I want to, but I'm not. There's other books I want to read first before I get back to that series. Okay, so that was it for my Bookopoly ones, and the rest are just books that I wanted to read. The next one was my book of the month book, which was Infinite Country by Patricia Engel, and wow, I loved this book. So stinking good. It was really short. It was under 200 pages. And it really just talked about this family who starts off in Colombia, and then they go to America to kind of have a better life, get some money, and send it back to the mother's mother. But it just talks about the struggles they have. They have children, and then the father ends up getting deported, and then she sends back her youngest to Colombia. So the whole story is her youngest trying to get back to America to be with her mom and 2 siblings, and the father is struggling because he's deported, and it just kind of feels, you know, kind of depressed and upset about stuff. So it's just such a great story. It hits so many hard topics. It didn't make me cry, but I definitely teared up at the end because it was so, I don't even want to say what it was because I don't want to give anything away. It's just a really, really fantastic book. I highly encourage anyone to read this. There's a lot of, not myths, but like cultural stories, which has to do with the animals on the front, the condor, the jaguar, and the snake. And they just really tie in, and it's just so beautiful. Like, I love this story. It's so great. Okay, we all know what the next book is. It is Deadly Dreams by KJ Sutton. And you guys know I love this series. This is the 3rd book in the Fortuna Sworn series. It's about a nightmare who goes looking for her brother who went missing 2 years ago. She meets a fairy who makes a deal with her that if she marries him, he will help her find her brother, and from there it just goes crazy, and you love the characters. There's so many great characters in this. I love seeing the courts, the Seelie courts, the unseelie courts. I like all of the creatures. There's vampires, there are werewolves, there are nightmares, there are fae, there are witches, there are sirens, like dragons. It's amazing. I love this, although I'm gonna preface that it is a dark fantasy, and there are trigger warnings for sexual assault, violence, and just I think those are the 2 main ones. But if you like reading about Fallen and you like reading fantasy stories, this is definitely a great one. And the 4th one comes out in December, which is sad that I have to wait that long, but they're so good. Very quick reads. Yeah, enjoy it. The last 2 books that I read in February were some kind of, I read actually kind of, like half the books I read hit some like hard topics. So the next book that I read was The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Michelle Alexander is a civil rights lawyer, and this book talks about mass incarceration in the age of colorblindness. And this is a great book. It's kind of difficult to read just because it's nonfiction and there's a lot of facts. I'm just someone that prefers to get them in story terms, so it was kind of harder, a little more dense for me, but I still enjoyed it. It made me so mad. It makes you understand how much race is rooted into our political entire country system. It's like actually insane, and it just makes you so mad because there are so many people who are incarcerated over drug crimes, and most of the people who are incarcerated are people of color or Black people, when white people are doing it the same amount or if not more than these other people. And so it's just frustrating to see the Black people and the other people of color who are getting arrested for these crimes when white people are getting away spot free. I don't know. This is a great book if you are looking to educate yourself on the criminal justice system. It's not really the criminal justice system, but it is about mass incarceration. So it starts off with giving like the politics behind it and kind of getting you used to the drug war, which is it's a really good way to get into this if you really have no background on it like I did. It's a little dated-ish, not really. This came out in 2010. There is a preface where it talks about what's happened since 2010 because this like edition came out in 2020. So most of the like timeline is in the 90s, 80s, and like early 2000s. But I mean, even then, you're just like, what the heck? So definitely check this book out. Okay, the last book that I read, and another hard topic, is about the Holocaust. So I read The Hiding Place, and this is basically a memoir. I would call this a memoir. It's about Corrie and her family who were living in Holland at the time of World War II, and she was about 50 years old at the time, and her father owns a watch shop, and they were just, I mean, it's a small town. They kind of knew everyone, and at the time of the occupation, Jews were needing places to escape to or risk being sent to concentration camps or being arrested. So they began hiding Jews in their house and finding places to hide Jews and just kind of working with this whole underground like system. And holy cow, this is the most moving story I've read in a long time. I like the way this starts off too. It starts off kind of giving her life as a young girl going up till she's like 50, and it's just so good. She and her family are so Christ-centered and so God-serving and God-fearing. It's crazy, actually. Like, eventually her and her family are ratted out and they are taken to a federal prison. From there, Corrie is kind of deemed the ringleader of the underground system. So her and her sister are taken to a concentration camp, and they are really just spreading God's love during this. I mean, they're in a concentration camp and they're enduring hard things. They have to work, they have to stand at attention for hours early in the morning during winter with nothing to eat, nothing really to wear. One thing that I didn't think I would, I mean, I definitely cried in this. I sobbed. One thing I wasn't expecting to cry over was fleas, but holy cow, so good. There are so many things in this story that you're like, none of this could happen without God. Like, these were miracles, certain things that were happening. Like, read this book. If you enjoy, and I know enjoy is a weird word to say for this, but if you enjoy Holocaust books or books similar to this, I highly recommend this book. It's pretty short. It's a pretty quick read. I read it in 2 days. So good. Highly encourage you to check this out. All right. Well, these are all the books that I read in February, minus Maze Runner. I had another good month. I wasn't expecting February to be quite as good as January, but it was. I mean, I hit a lot of hard topics this month, but it was definitely worth it, honestly. And I still got to read 6 books, which was really exciting. I'm very looking forward to March. Stay tuned for tomorrow because there will be a video up about how my March is going to be, and I'm really excited. With that being said, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!